Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, I have been wanting to tell this story because I lived in the Midwest for 3 years, and there is something weird about the Midwest. Like, there is just some creepy stuff that goes down there. There's a lot of old houses there. Um, and anyway, I lived in the Midwest for 3 years in this town called Creston, Iowa, and I went to a music school out there, and it was a really creepy house. It was called the Dollhouse. And it was kind of notoriously known to be like the music school party house. And the reason why we called it the Dollhouse was because it was a giant Victorian style house that was like Pepto-Bismol pink and had like white trim and everything. And all the rooms were like a different pastel color. It was cute. It was a really cute house, but weird things, honestly, when I was alone there, like there were some weird things that happened. I was rarely alone because again, it was a party house, but it was just when I was alone, it was kind of weird. But basically, I want to tell you guys a story about the time that a ghost just decided to pretend to be my roommate. It was very strange. I still to this day cannot explain it, but it revolves around spring break. So spring break rolled around that year, and I was super inseparable with this one chick, and she would pick me up in the morning, and she would drop me off at night, and at the time, like for that spring break, the only roommates in the house were me and my roommate Tim, because everybody else decided to go home for spring break, right, to their own respective towns or states, right. I had four roommates, by the way, so and the and I didn't really, it wasn't uncommon for me to like kind of go days without talking to Tim because again, he was older, he was kind of keep to himself kind of guy, and he would hole himself in his room and practice and stuff, and the way to get to his room was kind of weird too. Like, you had to go through Mike's bedroom to get to his room. Like, you had to go through Mike's bedroom to a little hallway that had like a little bathroom that they shared, and then into his bedroom. Or you go through the dining room and go up this secret stairwell into the floor of Tim's bedroom. It was like a hatch that you would like open, and it was the floor of his bedroom. It was really weird. But it was kind of, like I said, it was common for him to kind of hole himself in the room and not like come out. And so for me, it was just normal to not see him for days on end sometimes. Or I would see him like in class or whatever, and like in rehearsal or whatever for choir. But other than that, like I didn't see him at home hardly unless we were having a party or something, you know? And long story short, I would come home late at night, like every night, well after midnight. This girl would drop me off after our, little shenanigans that we would get into during the day. And then I would look up and his bedroom light would be on in the window. I would see it every night. I would see it. And it gave me comfort to know that I wasn't by myself. Right. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Tim's home. And then I would go. It was weird because, like I said, he was a very quiet guy, and he very kept to himself and stuff. And I remember going to bed every night, and every night I would hear him walking around. And he was like, he was tall. I think he was like something crazy, like 6'3" or 6'5" or something. He was tall. People would call him Tree, like Tim the Tree. Like, that's how tall he was. So, he wasn't a quiet walker. He was a dude. He was a big dude. So you would hear him walking around, and the house was old, so it would creak, and like, it would, the walls were thin. So I would hear him walking around, and I would hear him going into my bathroom, which was right outside in the hallway, because my bathroom had the laundry. And I remember because it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would hear him, and the water would be running in the drum of the washer. And I would hear him open and close the washer and dryer doors. And they were old washer and dryers, so it was like you could hear, they were loud, So I was like, okay. So that's weird, but like I didn't judge him because, like everybody has their own routine, I guess, like, And so I was like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. And this happened every night that week. Like, I would hear him walking around, and I would already be in bed, so there was really no point in me getting up to check on him because I was tired from the day, or like I would just be like in bed, and I would already be in bed, so I was like, why am I going to get up, So Saturday rolls around, and I am in the freezer, like, and the fridge was right next to the door, like literally right next to the back door of our house. And I had opened up the freezer and I was digging around in there, and I hear the back door open, and I look, and it's Tim, and he has like bags, like travel bags and a backpack and stuff. And I was like, where are you going? And he was like, what do you mean I'm coming home? And I was like, what do you mean you're coming home? And he was like, yeah, I decided to go to the Twin Cities with Forrest. And I was like, what do you mean you decided to go to the Twin Cities with Forrest? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, how long have you been gone? And he was like, oh, the whole week. And I was like, what the hell? You're joking, right? I was like, someone's in the house. Like, it's crazy. So I tell him everything, right? I'm like freaking out. We go upstairs, go into his bedroom. Everything is as he left it. And the light is off, like turned off. And I was like, I swear I saw it on every day. I heard you walking around at night. I was like, there's no way. Like I couldn't figure out why or how this happened. And I was freaking out, right? And still to this day, I don't know who was in the house. I really don't. And it baffles me to this day. And there were other instances before that instance that scared the shit out of me. Like, there's people outside my door right here. But basically, yeah, it was just like weird things would happen. I remember one time I was like in my room and I was like writing on a piece of paper. I didn't have a desk, so I would like sprawl out all my paperwork, all my handwritten assignments, and I would write it, on the floor. I would be on the floor. And I looked up, when you get that feeling when like somebody's approaching your door and they're about to knock on the door, you kind of already preemptively look up because you already know that they're there. Like, that's the feeling I got. And so, like, I look up at the door, and the door, you had to jam it shut. So when you opened it, because it was like a swollen wood and the latch didn't work, so like you had to jam it shut because the wood was swollen, and every time you'd open it, it would literally make a big popping noise every time you would open the door. And I remember I look up having that feeling like someone was approaching my door, and it pops open. And I'm thinking somebody's there. And nobody was there. So I go outside and I look, literally no one's there. And I see that there's a window at the end of the hallway and it's open. So I was like, okay, let me just close that. So I close the window. And I go back into my room and I jam it shut and I start doing my homework again. And like a few minutes later, I feel that same feeling like someone's approaching my door. As I look over at the door and it pops open, but this time it starts to creak open. So I get up right away. Like I get up really quick and I go outside and I'm like, Mike, because Mike lived right next door to me. And I was like, Mike, is that you? And like I was like freaking out, right? Nothing. Nobody. I was by myself in the house. By my damn self. It was creepy. And I just got all my stuff and I ran out and I went to the school and I finished my homework there. And yeah, and then like I said, every time I was alone after that, which like I said was rare, but on the few occasions that I was, like weird things would happen. Like I would hear footsteps running up and down the stairs, or I would hear like Mike or somebody, one of my roommates, calling my name, and then I would go and look for them and they weren't there. Or I would hear the front door like open and close as if someone was coming in, but then nobody was there. It was just weird things. And I don't think that the like ghost was like bad, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I felt like really negative energy before, and I didn't get that feeling from it, but it was just like mischievous energy, I guess. I don't know, but it was just weird, and it just felt like there was somebody in that house. Like, I don't know. It was just weird stuff. Weird stuff would happen. And that's basically my ghost story, that I don't think anybody would believe me, but I mean, that's my tale.